quickly. He mentions the Mo Johnston deal in 1989, all the way back 36 years ago. Am I right in saying that was your kind of big break in journalism, wasn't it? That was a mad story.
It was.
When that unfolded in front of you, that must have been wild.
Yeah, I was 16-year-old, so yeah, a little bit. Listen, do you know what that was? Be lucky, be in the right place at the right time. That seems to have happened to me frequently throughout the years. So yeah, I was on work experience at the time for another newspaper, which we shan't name, and working basically during my school holidays. And yep, heard this, realised I heard it probably back at 5 on a Friday night. I'd just come home from work, or maybe even later than that, and I thought, how bad would I be at this game if this story's true and I haven't at least phoned it in? So I thought I better phone it in. I phoned it in on the Saturday. The Sunday, the people that were working for the Sunday paper or the Sunday edition of that paper were in, but I spoke to somebody that also worked for the Monday paper, and I left it at that. Knew nothing more about it. Went to get the subway over to Kinnan Park on the Monday morning. As I'm going down the escalator, I just looked up and I saw the billboard, Mojo joins Jers. And I have to tell you, the adrenaline rush out of that. And that's, that's why we're still here 36 years later, I guess.
Aye. To do that,
but yeah, quite a story.
Pretty incredible.
I don't know about adrenaline rush. I think my backside would have collapsed if I'd have seen that.
Very good point. Aye. Most people worry in their work experience about getting the tea right.
Exactly.
Breaking world exclusives and that.
Oh, it's not a bad start. It's been downhill ever since.
Rebel asked, was Mo Johnston better at Rangers than he was at Celtic, Keith?
I think so. I think he was a better player by the time he went to Rangers, to be fair, Rebel. I think he was more rounded. I think his time in France, he seemed to up his... In terms of, he was always a great penalty box striker when he was at Celtic. I think his all-round game became better. I think he really improved in France. And when he came back to Rangers, I think he was a better version of the Maurice Johnson that the Celtic fans knew and loved.
Aye.
Although that does seem like a very long time ago.
Aye. And Marzuno there saying Mo Johnston, that's a Kennedy moment for any Celtic fan. Any Celtic fan of that era, I can imagine it definitely was.
Oh, I mean, it was mega. It was mega.
Aye.
The thing about that, Daniel, just, and maybe like younger people might not realise, I mean, it wasn't just Mo Johnston signing for Rangers after being a Celtic player. I mean, the thing that just sticks in my mind, it was Mo Johnston being pictured at Celtic Park going back to Celtic.
It's funny you say that, Scott, because John writes in saying I was at Mo's first Celtic Rangers game at Parkhead. He never came near the jungle. I bet he didn't.
It was incredible. The pictures with Billy McNeil and the scarf and all that come back to Celtic. I mean, for them the next day, literally, or the next couple of days to sign for Rangers, I mean, it was just...
It felt like that. It felt like that, Scott. But I'm sure sometimes your memory plays tricks a little bit. I'm sure that Mo Johnston turned up at Celtic Park before Celtic played Rangers in the Scottish Cup final. So that's around about May. And I'm sure that they said he's signing. He'll be a Celtic player for the start of next season. Right. So I think that was around about the May time, and it wasn't until July that Maurice Johnson ends up being paraded at Ibrox with Graham Souness.
So sorry, I know I'm really getting off topic here, but what was it that held up Celtic in the end? They didn't pay the fee to on, or what was it? To actually get the signing over the line?
Just Souness came in and convinced them.
Just hijacked it.
Aye.
Yeah, but it's basically good old-fashioned hijacking.
Because did Souness not walk into the Rangers dressing room after the 89 Scottish Cup final? I think Celtic won 1-0. Rangers players were devastated, obviously, and Souness's last words were, "No, don't worry, boys. We'll have the last laugh." And,
I heard that.
That's what happened that summer.
Scotland the Braves says Kenny Miller certainly wasn't a better version we got to Celtic. I actually thought Kenny Miller was pretty good for Celtic. But there you go. Other Celtic news, Kasper Schmeichel, Keith, is out for 5 to 6 weeks, according to Brendan Rodgers. I mean, look, Celtic, we've said they've got one hand on a domestic treble, but that's still not very good news for Celtic.
Listen, it's not. It's obviously not good news, but it's not as bad as it could have been. there was a worry that Kasper Schmeichel, it might be slightly worse than that. He might even be struggling to get back in time for Champions League qualifiers for the start of next season. But this gives him a fighting chance of being ready for the Scottish Cup final, the end of the season. So yeah, it's obviously not good news, but I think it could have been worse. I think that Brendan Rodgers might have been fearing that it might be worse than that. So yeah, listen, injuries happen. Kasper Schmeichel at his age, there's always the concern that the body might take longer to heal. That probably will be the case by a couple of weeks or so. But if the worst case scenario is that he's back and available for selection before the end of this season, I think Celtic will be perfectly happy with it.
Marzuno's on good form tonight, Scott. He says, plus 40 goal difference to Rangers. We could have Susan Boylan going, it wouldn't make a dent. I mean, I'm not sure it goes as far as Susan Boyle. I get his point, but Celtic will want all their best players fit, won't they?
Listen, I think I said on here a couple of weeks ago, or when the Schmeichel injury happened, it's more the Scottish Cup, isn't it? I mean, they could have a Scottish Cup final, against Hearts or Aberdeen, and you would want your number one keeper playing. I mean, Sinisalo looked decent. I was at the game on Saturday, looked absolutely fine, as you'd expect. No adept with the ball at his feet. In terms of Celtic playing out, didn't have too much to do with it. Made one big save at the start of the game, where Hearts could have went in front. So, no, they've clearly got a good young keeper there. But I think the key point is, as Jackal said, and he mentioned that when Schmeichel get the injury, it's the long-term effects that it might have, even though he's going to be back, say, 6-7 weeks. It's just shoulder injury for a guy at his age. You wouldn't want to think it was going to cause him a problem, going forward. Hopefully it doesn't, but when you get to that stage in your career, well, you're a keeper and it's a shoulder injury, I mean, it might be problematic. I mean, Celtic would be hoping it isn't, obviously, but that would be the only concern. In terms of this season, I don't think it will be too much of an issue. It's more beyond that you would maybe worry slightly. Actually,
just finally on Celtic, Keith, there was news coming out of London earlier on today that Kieran Tierney's set to play a big part against Real Madrid for Arsenal. Jerry writes in saying Real Madrid in the European Cup quarterfinals. Katie should use it as a training game to stay fit for the summer. That's all well and good, but see if you're Brendan Rodgers and Celtic fans, you'd be watching that through spread fingers, wouldn't you? I mean, with his injury record.
Well, if you're very much a glass half full type of person, I guess you probably would be.
Like I clearly am.
Sort of more optimistic about us would be saying, let's see how good Kieran Tierney still is. Let's see his quality against some of the best wide players that you can find anywhere in the European game.
Best team
and do you know what, as well? I'd go further than that. Kieran Tierney, I've always said, yes, he might, be as reliable as a Morris Minor, but he's a Rolls Royce of a football player when he's fit. And I'd take a Pepsi challenge for Kieran Tierney against anybody when he's playing at left back up against a pacey right winger. I've very, very rarely, no matter who he's been up against, have I seen him absolutely torn to shreds. It doesn't happen.
Oh, I agree. I think when he's fully fit, he's world class.
Yeah, definitely. So you know what? I think it's one, rather than watch it from behind the couch or behind the gap in your fingers, I think sit, enjoy it, look at what you're just about to get back, because we talked about Mo Johnston being a better player when he went back to Scottish football after a spell in France. Kieran Tierney's only going to be a better version of the player that the Celtic fans fell in love with first time around.
Aye. Still only 27.
Tierney to Rangers.
Aye. Singing the blues right in Tierney to Rangers. And I think with that input, guys, that brings us to the end of Wednesday night's Hotline Live with Record Sport before we jump the shark any further. Thanks so much for all the comments sent in. We really appreciate it. We'll be back to do it all again at 6 p.m. tomorrow night. We hope you can join us then. Scott, Keith, it's always a pleasure.
Cheers,
Daniel.
Thanks very much, and hope you can join us tomorrow. Cheers.